Hello everyone, I would like to talk about RStudio and R Markdown today. RStudio has changed the name to POSIT, but it doesn't mean that RStudio will die. I think it was more a strategic move, but if you're interested you can read about this change on their website. Now, before doing that, I would like to highlight a few points about R Markdown, which is more or less applicable to large extent to Quarto. Again, I will only talk about R Markdown today. And a few things which I think will be worthwhile to mention about R Markdown is the capability that you can gain or have by using R Markdown. And the first one is reproducibility. So imagine that you run your own code, your own project, and then you distribute it or share it with your colleagues or the community. And they can reproduce your data if you have this organized in a structured fashion, which R Markdown gives you this opportunity, this possibility to do that. In addition to that, one of the other features which I can highlight about R Markdown is the reporting. So you can have customized reports in form of HTML, PDF. And in addition to that, sometimes you can have interactive features in your report, which makes it not only attractive, but also easy to navigate through the analysis and the results section. And you also have this version control. If you're working with some tools like Git, this feature of R Markdown and RStudio in particular can be very useful. In addition to that, this dynamic reporting is also very interesting. I like it because imagine you have done your project, you have done some of the analysis and then generated the report, and the new data comes. You don't need to start from scratch. You just feed in your new data, you perform the analysis, and then you generate your report. And last but not least, one of the strong point of RStudio and R Markdown is that there is a big community and there are a lot of resources and tutorials that you can use. Now that I have covered the intro, let's focus on the main topic of today, which is R Markdown, and delve into the world of R Markdown. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce you to RStudio. We first need to open RStudio. And we just type RStudio. And as soon as you open your RStudio, there will be a few different panels. And each of, well, if you open your RStudio and you see this message, it means that you need to update. And since my intention in this video is not to show how to update, because it might be boring to keep you waiting, so I just say remind later. Okay, so I was testing something here before, but in order to get a fresh session, you simply come to this icon which says create a project. By pressing that, you get 3 options. Sometimes it might be slow. So what you see here is a new project wizard. You have 3 options: new directory, existing directory, and version control. New directory is when you want to start a project from scratch, which means what we are going to do today. The next one is existing directory, and this option will come into help when we want to continue working on an existing working directory. And the last one is version control, when we want to have version control of a repository like GitHub. Now we go to a new directory and we get even a longer list. I'm going to explain each of them, which makes my video even more boring. But for interest of time, I just choose the first one. It's a create new project in an empty directory. Now I choose a name for that. Say my first project, and I save it on my desktop. Do I need to check this box which says create a Git repository? Now I would say no, because we don't really want to have a version control project. And use ORenv with this project. Again, that's not our intention to create ORenv, and I'm not going to talk about that. It's not about the ORenv this video. But the one thing which I would like to check is open a new session. By doing that, we get almost the same structure, 4 panels in a new session. Again, we just say remind me later about the new update. And here we go. We have a fresh session where we have multiple panels. And I start by the one in left, which is console. So in console, you get extra information about the R version and also some additional function that you can run in order to get the license in this case, or the citation, contributors, and a few other functions. In addition to this panel or pane, we have environment, history, connections, and tutorial. I will talk only about environment and history. The environment shows or saves all the variables or data frames that we create in our session. And I will show this to you how it presents those data. But a few other important options which I think will be worthwhile to mention is import datasets. It is graphical user interface, which in the background runs usual commands in the background. With this you can import data in form of CSV or table. Next to this option you have an icon which shows how much memory is used, and you can empty unused R memories with this. Sometimes you may need to do that when you're doing memory intensive analysis. And the last thing that I show from this panel is this icon, which helps to clear the objects from the workspace. In another word, it removes the data that you have created or saved in your environment. Now, the third panel or pane is where you can see your files. So as you saw, I created my project on desktop, which was my first project. You can add directories, new blank files, delete, rename. And then we have plots. When we generate plots, we can see the plots in this panel dependent on our settings. The package tab is probably one of the most important tabs in this panel. So where you have the list of installed libraries, and you can simply load the package of interest by checking the boxes. So as you can see, the command to load the package is library and then the name of the package. Now let's unload them. You can also unload by just unchecking, and again you see how you can unload the package with this detach command. Now imagine in a scenario that you want to install a new package. As soon as you press the install button, this one here, you get the new window where you have to set some of the settings before installation. The first one is install from repository, which in this case by default it is CRAN. And if you have the source file, you can use the second option. And after that there is a text box where you type the name of the package or packages. And yes, you can install more than one package by separating them with a space or comma. Now just let's say yes, for example, I want to install enrich R package. I press enrich R and I leave the default library path as it is. And last but not least, I check the install dependencies box. So what does it mean? Some of the packages are dependent on other packages. If you want to have a healthy and proper installation, always check this box. And then we are ready to go. We press the install button. And as soon as we press that button, then we have a new function, which is installed package. And the package of interest will be in the quotation, double quotation or quotation. Then you see that your package is installed. Do we really have this package installed? Now let's see, enrich R. Yes, it is installed, and let's load it. Yes, here we go. All of the dependencies and the functions of this package has been loaded. Then we have the help menu, which this one is also very useful, and you can just search for the function of interest, for example enrich R, or let's do mean instead, mean. So there are a few information that you see on the top of the help page. First, the name of the function, from which package it comes from, and the description of the package, and how one uses it, the arguments that you can set when you're running the function, the value that you get at the end after running this function. You can read more about this in for each of the functions. And if there are similar functions, you can see them listed here under C also. Now, let's say we want to check the example of this function. We simply type example and then we type mean. And then it prints the example with the output. You can also do that by pressing run example in the help page. And yes, it performs, and you have exactly the same output as you type in console. So here I first clean my workspace. It says, are you sure you want to remove all objects from the environment? This operation cannot be undone. And I say yes, because I know that we haven't generated any important data. Now, Control L is your friend. It cleans and gives you a new console. And then I would like to create a new vector. I say X and then C 1, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8. As soon as I create or assign values to X, I can see that listed in the environment menu or tab. We have X value and it is numerical. The content is numerical. Now let's say I want to create a text or a string. I put it in the quotation or double quotation, say this is a text. Text. Here we go. We have the text, and then this is a text as a string or character that you see here. So the good thing about console is that you can immediately write your code and then see the results or see how it is shown or saved in your environment. But imagine you need to run, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 lines. And every time you have to go forth and back with your keyboard, and it's a bit difficult to keep track of the codes. If you go to history, you can overcome this to a large extent, but it is not really clean. In order to do that, you can do either creating a new script, which you can select by RScript, or you can directly create an R Markdown. And since the topic of this video is R Markdown, I just directly go to R Markdown and I give it a title, and then I say, okay, my first R Markdown. And you can leave the rest of the options, the author, date, and I leave this unchecked, use current date when rendering document, and then default output format. You can have HTML, PDF, or Word, and for today I select HTML. Before pressing OK, I would like to also mention that you have the list, in the list you have few other options to choose, whether you want to create a presentation, a Shiny app, and if you want to select from template. So for now, we just create a new document, which is my first R Markdown. And bingo, when you do that, you get this panel. So what you see is the header. Anything surrounded by 3 dash is header. We have the title, author, date, and the output, which we set HTML document. What if you change your mind, you want to convert it to PDF or Word? It's easy. You come to this neat button, don't press it. There is an arrow which gives you a list down, and you can select. Let's try select PDF, and then you can see we have, oopsie, no, I don't want to save it for now. And as you can see, we have a new line which says PDF by default. And I say, no, I changed my mind. I want to, again, either change it back, or I can use Command Z to undo. In body of your report, you can insert different chunks for codes, for example. And this one is an R chunk code, which is shown here. And what it says is that it turns all the chunks to echo equal to true. So it means that by setting this option, all the chunks, code chunks in this report will be printed. We can change this a bit, but before doing that, or I leave it as it is, I first delete every other options that we have, and since it is the setup, I leave it up here. And it says include false, which means that this one won't be included in the report or the rendered version of this R Markdown. Now, let's say I want to create different headers, different sections of this report. I can define new headers by hash, simple hash, single hash. And I say, okay, introduction. Remember, you need 2 space and new line. Always do that. So say this is my first R Markdown file, and here I would like to create the following sections. Say vector, matrix, and then a data frame, and last but not least a plot. Okay, now let's create these subsections. So if you want to have subsections or subheaders, header 2 for example, then we use double hash. Say vector, double space, enter, matrix, double space, enter, data frame, double space, enter, and last but not least, plot, double space, enter. Now let's knit it. Of course it asks me to save the file, and I say okay, my first R Markdown, and then I save it. So when it renders, you have a render panel, and then after that you see your report here. Oops, something is wrong. I don't have them listed as one I expected, but the rest of the report, like the introduction, header, vector, matrix, data frame, and plot, has been properly listed. So I did it intentionally. I didn't add space, enter, and no space after this list. Now let's try again. I expect them to be listed. Yes, here we go. Now we have them listed as bullet points. Okay, now let's get back to the business. I would like to create a new R chunk code. I come to this icon here, C++, and after pressing this arrow, then I can choose which programming language I want. I want Python, R, or writing in Bash. So I press R. As soon as I press R, we get this chunk. So the R represents which programming language this chunk is. And remember, I suggest that we name all of the chunks, because if you start creating a large R Markdown file, then for debugging, if you have the name of the chunks, it will be much easier. And I here say vector chunk. Remember to use hash, not underscore. Sometimes it gives errors, and I always try to use either hash or just try to concatenate the names. And I say, okay, my vec, then I assign values 1 to 10. And then I print it, my vec. Let's see. Yes, I go to environment, and my vec is integer. Now, I go to matrix. Again, I want to insert a R chunk. I come to this menu and then press R chunk, and I name it matrix chunk. My matrix is, I use matrix function, and as soon as I open the parenthesis and press tab, I get the list of parameters that I can set. I say, okay, I want data, and I say it should be 1 to 10, and I said the number of column I want to be 2, and the number of row I want to be 5. And then I print it. So first I assign the values to my matrix, and then I print it. Yes. One thing you should notice is that when you create matrix, then it ends up a new section in environment, and which is data. Now let's go to data frames. You can also create an R chunk by pressing Alt Command I or Option Command I in Mac. Now, without going to the menu, I mean. Now I say data frame chunk, and I create my new data frame. My df is data frame, and I can already choose a name for my columns. I say rank from 1 to 10, and then items, selecting the first 10 letters, and then I would say name this section, for example. Then I paste section. Paste 0 is also a function, but let's use paste, and then from 1 to 10, and then we say separation to be set to nothing, and then price. We say, okay, sample from 100 to 1000, and select 10. I say, okay, my data frame, print this. Here we go. This is our data frame with 10 rows and 4 columns. And then we have the rank column, items, sections, and prices. We can also check the size of the data frame or matrix by dim my data frame, which is 10 to 4, and for example my matrix, which is dim, which is 5 by 2. Okay, now You can also close the outputs within a line by just pressing the X. Now let's say that I would like to create a plot. I name my plot chunk as plot chunk, and then I say okay, plot. The first column, which the name is rank, you can access the columns of a data frame by $, and then versus the price. I can also choose how I want this to be shown by point, which is 19. Here we go. We have the ranks and we have the prices. Okay, now let's render it by just pressing neat. Here we go. We have all the chunks that we inserted in here with the outputs and the dimension. Maybe I can exclude my dimension here. Yes, you can edit and render again, and yes. So let's say I want to add another header 1 conclusion. So okay, here was a simple report on creating a R Markdown file / report. It was a simple file on creating a reports. Yes. Okay. And before doing that, I think we can make small changes in our data set in this file by coming to this gear and then pressing output options. So here I can already select include table of content, which shows the sections that we have on top of the file, and the depth of the headers for table of contents up to 3. The syntax highlighting default, apply theme default. You can also apply a CSS file if you know what you're doing. And then numbers, section headings. We can use numbers for our heading as well. Figures. We can apply a default setting or change the default setting of the figures, which in this case these are sized in inches. Here, okay, I want to have my figure by size of 4 and 3 and render figures with caption. The advanced, we can leave it as it is, and let's say okay, and everything that we change shows up here. Table of content, yes. Figure width and height. Figure caption, yes. Number of section, yes. And we are ready to go. Okay, few changes. First of all, we have changed the size of the figure, and in addition to that, we have created the new section, which is conclusion. And as you can see, all the sections have been numbered accordingly, and they are listed in our table of content. So before ending, I would like to tell you two things. One is, if you come to help, then you get Markdown quick reference, which there are different tricks that you can use to create different features in R Markdown. And if you want to see something more fancy or colorful, you come again to help, and then cheat sheet, and then R Markdown cheat sheet. And then what you get looks like this: a PDF with 2 pages and quite very valuable information, and with examples and how you can do that. So you can change the features or appearance of R Markdown. Before saying bye, I think I can tell you one more thing. When it comes to chunks, you can for example include the chunks or exclude them by pressing this gear. Here you can set the chunk name, and then here you set whether to show or to run the chunk or not. And for example, here I say show code and output together, which is by default set like that. And then I say show nothing and just run the code. I apply it. Oh, you can also say show warnings messages as well, but for now just I say apply, and then I init it. So I expect not to see the vector, which I don't see that. You see, this chunk has not been executed. And how did it work? Again, here we have include equal to false. That was all I wanted to tell you, and I hope you will use it. Remember that I just scratched the surface of RStudio and R Markdown. Of course, there are plenty of powerful features waiting for you to explore, and the best way to uncover their full potential is to just dive in and start working with RStudio. So what I'm trying to say is not to wait. Begin your R Markdown journey now and explore the endless possibilities it offers. And then, happy coding. Good luck.